Hello, and a very warm welcome to a brand new episode of Simply Electric, live here at Alba, Berlin on Marzahner Straße, right at this very moment in time. Thanks to Volvo Trucks and Alba, Berlin, we've been given the unique chance to ride along in an all-electric truck, a refuse collection vehicle, as it sets off on its waste collection route today, and we're absolutely thrilled to be part of this exciting journey. In addition, we're here to take you behind the scenes and give you a closer, more detailed look into the technology of this electric truck from Volvo. And of course, we'll also show how it all operates within the framework of a waste management and recycling facility, like at Alba, Berlin. I'd say we're not wasting any time. Let me introduce you to Frank, because I'm heading out on the big trash tour with him now. Here we go. First up, the trash tour. For that, I say good morning, Frank. Good morning. Thank you so much for letting me join you on a genuine, real-life trash tour today. It's great to be here. Yes, here we are on your truck, and I'd say there's no need to waste any time. Let's just get started and head straight out with the Volvo Electric right at this very moment.
Yes, but first I'd like to explain a few things to you. The support at the back is fully functional, so we can properly prepare the car.
I think I actually need to get some work done today.
Finally, at last. And most importantly, you can actually wear the proper shoes now.
Yeah, that's not even in our script. We're actually supposed to stick to it closely. But Frank says I've got to seriously grind it out today.
I've already turned everything on at the front of the vehicle. Now we've got to go ahead and release the third one. Okay. That way we'll be able to get the press machine up and running smoothly without any issues at all. Yeah, that's it. So, it's already starting. Here you'll have the buttons. With you, the comb lowers. Here with you, the comb goes back up once we have it in the bin, so we can tilt them. It will get a bit faster later. It's still a bit slow right now.
Needs to warm up first, yeah.
The oil needs to get into the flask first.
But all of this is happening electrically, powered by the battery.
That's purely electric, yes. Later, when we have two 40-liter containers, there are different dimensions available. You'll see that later. I'll show you. There's an automatic system in here.
Okay. Wait, I need to do this myself. Here.
So, they practically always end up going straight to the bin afterward. It automatically sews itself up. You just have to set it up and then move it a bit to the side so you don't remove it. We'll handle that later once we're in the area with the barrel, and I can explain it again to you. All right, then I'd say let's get it running again. So my mistake. I jumped the gun again. We're definitely going to need a bit more time for that.
Now we're all set and making our way to the helm.
Now we're moving out. Everything's set.
We've taken off, of course, fully electric, and you can really feel it, Frank. There's absolutely no sound at all. Yeah, it's incredible.
He's a total donkey.
Because Frank doesn't just drive the electric Volvo truck here, but also combustion engines, right? Yes? And can you briefly describe how you would differentiate between them? So can you notice the difference in everyday life between a combustion engine and an electric one?
Yes, you definitely notice it because, as I said, the electric one is just totally quiet. It's quite striking.
Yeah, torque, you get it, right?
Yeah, the diesels always take a bit longer to kick in properly, and with the gear shift jerk, here it's all fully electronic. You have to be really careful not to drive way too fast because it just doesn't go quickly.
Yeah, so if you were faced with the dilemma of choice, would you lean more toward the internal combustion engine, thinking it's just way simpler, you fill up a tank and you're ready to hit the road? Or would you say, honestly, I'm already pretty convinced. A fully electric truck could really work for your professional everyday life.
So actually, I'd say the electric one works really well because up to now we haven't run into any problems with the range. So we managed to complete 2 full tours each day with the car.
Yeah, how long's a tour? What's your take? 8 hours and you managed 2 trips. So the truck can handle 16 hours?
Well, it gets charged in between. When the first shift comes in, we've already seen it earlier and we'll show it again later when we stop, that the socket gets connected to the truck for charging. And then it gets charged once again, and we require approximately around 50% power each day for every single trip.
Yes, but it's a great story, isn't it? Truly amazing. If we take a moment to reflect and envision everyone transitioning to electric vehicles for local or medium distance travel, what kind of emissions could we genuinely save in a city as vast as Berlin? on one hand, but also noise emissions for residents who, when you start your routes at 5:30 in the morning, might also be somewhat disturbed by other trucks as well, adding to the overall noise pollution they experience daily. And here, the purely electric one is practically silent. We've driven quite a considerable distance now, and I'd like to ask Frank to share his impressions of the driving experience. Here with the electric in comparison to the combustion engine.
Yeah, so as I was saying, the comparison is that the electric car literally takes off like a rocket. When you're at the intersection, it's not that big, and the shifting process, it all transitions seamlessly.
You can see it clearly as well. You're just driving behind the car here with the big truck following along as if it's no more difficult. That means with electric, you can actually make your tours much smoother, and suddenly you're no longer a traffic obstacle at all, which is a big advantage. Nah, you're just kind of floating along in the soup, so to speak. You can really feel how quiet an electric truck is. And now we're pulling up here, and of course we're really looking forward to joining you in loading up the first few trash bins together, just like we've been planning to do all along right now. And Frank is helping me out here, of course, since I'm not exactly a professional when it comes to handling trash bins. But you see, lending a hand always helps, right, Frank? Just go ahead like this. Now you've likely switched to automatic, right?
Yes, it's semi-automatic, so the bin moves back and forth into the cutter. You just need to press the button to empty the bin.
Yes, as you can see, things always go honestly and authentically with us. Frank showed me everything, but I couldn't quite keep up with it all that quickly, to be honest with you. And that's basically how it works? How many blocks, Frank?
Yes, it always varies. It always depends. It can be like 30.
40. But if you start at 5:30 a.m., you're really going at it for 8 hours straight.
Yeah, well, first driving to the area, not quite 8 hours, but we have 8 hours of work time because with the driving back and forth, it always ends up taking a bit longer than expected.
And now here's the real kicker. We're in Berlin's big city. That means we have to find a gap like this. Or rather, you do, of course, since you do this every day, where you essentially manage to get the bins through. When cars are parked bumper to bumper, nothing fits in the truck. No,
You've got to look around for a gap, like I said, and then move the containers over there.
That's why I can only say, please take a moment to leave a kind comment here in the video for Frank. And a huge shout out to the guys for their daily efforts working tirelessly to recycle our waste in a fully electric process. So for that, a massive thank you and a big thumbs up, dear Frank.
Thanks.
This truck is whisper quiet. When you think about the level of noise it could potentially produce, even while idling, you don't hear a single sound at all. Absolutely nothing at all. Since it's purely electric, it doesn't make a single sound, and even now, as we're loading the trash bin, the diesel engine would typically still be running. And it would make noise. The only thing we actually hear is just the hydraulic system lifting the trash bin, essentially, into the compactor. That's just truly brilliant technology. And so, of course, it's also much quieter for the residents here on the street when an electric garbage truck collects their bins, right, Frank, compared to a combustion engine truck or...
That's true.
That means, Frank, we also have to do a visual inspection, right? That means we now verify what ingredients are in there or how it functions.
We conduct a visual inspection, let's say lift the lid, look inside, and if LVP is in there, which is allowed, we of course take it with us. And if there happen to be electrical appliances or food leftovers in there, we're obviously not allowed to take them. Then we've got this clever note from the company, just like this over here.
And would you then stick it on the bin?
Then the lid will simply be closed again, stuck onto the bin, and the container will stay in place. We can't dispose of that, so you'll need the BSR to take it away.
Okay, and maybe just another friendly reminder to really make sure that only the items specifically meant for the bins actually end up in them. So Frank, that was truly incredibly exciting to drive around this garbage route with you. Many thanks for that experience.
Welcome.
And we are, of course, already getting very close to the depot once again right here at this moment. That means we're now about to arrive back at the very precise spot where we began our journey. And now, naturally, the truck must be weighed, Frank, as part of the procedure.
Yes, now we have to weigh it, tip it, weigh it, and then we'll go ahead and connect the vehicle to the electric charging station located right over there.
And of course, we'll show you the entire process. That means we'll now step onto the scale, weigh the car to determine how much trash has been loaded, and then dump it all out together. We'll show you how a garbage truck, of course, gets emptied out and the whole process behind it. And yes, in the end, we'll of course also show how the garbage truck gets recharged, so to speak, using electric power. Yep, that's how it works.
So that the second shift can head out again or the vehicle can be back in action tomorrow morning.
That means we're now slowly driving onto a massive scale here. That's where the total weight of the vehicle gets determined. Then it'll be dumped and the total weight of the vehicle is measured once again. And the difference is basically, if you think about it, the garbage we've collected and loaded. Here's the tonnage. Frank, what's it showing?
It says about 18 tons here.
18 tons, including the trash as well? Yes.
So now we've arrived at the unloading point. Now we're driving into the hall. This is really quite exciting. You can already see some of the piles over here. And now we've got an unloading spot on the right side. Just make sure to stay on the left side, of course.
A few tons of waste here, right?
Yes, a few tons of waste are already here.
You're reversing back to the unloading spot now?
I'm maneuvering right up to the unloading spot now. It was already quite full today. Usually not this full. Oh, so I had to start tipping halfway through the route. But I can't change it. So now we have basically the control panel here where we operate the rear section. Now we're switching over to the tipping mode, and that's the exact moment when I'll finally be able to take control of the rear section. Oh, that's insane. And like I said, there's hardly any noise at all. Now it's beeping a little bit, but well, that's totally normal. Nothing to worry about.
Yeah, it's almost better if it shifts to the other side once, don't you think? You can hear it clearly as well, can't you? What's that? I mean, it's just a slight change, but it makes a noticeable difference in how it sounds. It's kind of interesting how even a small adjustment can have such an impact. You'd think it wouldn't matter much, but here we are, noticing it right away. What do you make of it?
Now he's tweaking the setting again.
You can't see it, but you can hear it a bit. There are several different cars once more. You lift up the rear section and then you tidy up everything immediately the first time when lifting up. And it only begins tidying here while sliding out. Once it's been fully slid out and everything is clear, that's when it starts emptying the tray completely. Now the tray is empty. Now I can move forward a bit. And then do you have to operate the flap manually? And then I set it down and manually close the tactile. So it's still somewhat of a process, as you can imagine. We need to get off here today because, like I said, then we can also take another look at the contamination in the back of the gutter and make sure to clean it up a bit.
Now the car is emptied.
Locked. And now we're heading back out to weigh again.
Awesome, that's such a cool process. You can also catch a bit of a smell here from the trash that's been dumped,
Yeah, it smells a bit too in some spots around here for sure.
especially when it probably sits there for a bit longer too. That means the waste is likely sorted again, separated, and then, depending on the type, recycled as purely as possible. 17.25 tons standing outside at the scale. We did take a quick waste run with you earlier today, and now we're on our way to the shop, Frank. Isn't that right?
Yes, now we're heading over to the fuel pump, to the sock-style fuel pump.
You've got two excellent Alpatronic charging stations here, each with dedicated parking spots, making it ideal for loading up the car between shifts and, of course, overnight. Offering a highly practical and efficient solution for your needs.
So the car can keep moving seamlessly, whether it's for the second shift or overnight, fully prepped for the early shift. It's a flawless system in place.
May I plug it in, Frank?
Yes, you may. We can easily unplug it. With the cable, it's no issue at all.
With the CCS connector, we're already somewhat familiar. We know it from the car sector as well. Of course, we need to go around here, and then the truck has the CCS connection on the side, just like we know it from our cars, where we simply plug in the connector, and then it can charge at a maximum of up to 250 kilowatts. But we'll take a closer look at the Volvo truck in detail in a moment, along with all the specifications and technical data with a specialist. All right, Frank, I'd like to say a big thank you for the insights. Even a garbage tour was a lot of fun, and I really noticed how much effort and work goes into it, how much manpower is required. Once again, a huge thank you so much for everything. Please be so kind and give Frank a thumbs up and perhaps leave him a kind comment in the video as well, thanks. Because people like Frank are the ones who truly make our everyday lives more beautiful. Otherwise, we'd have to handle the trash, and who wants that?
No one feels like it.
Frank, thanks again so much.
Thanks.
I truly hope we'll meet again, and I can join such a wonderful tour once more.
We'll see about that.
I say hello and grüß Gott to Christoph Hein. Christoph Hein is Volvo's leading product specialist here today when it comes to electric commercial vehicles. Is that correct?
Perfectly correct.
And Christoph can shed some light on the technical specifications for us, as we promised, regarding what a garbage compactor truck is capable of, on one hand, and what kind of battery might be installed, how quickly it can be charged, how much power it has, how many motors such a truck has in order to be functional in everyday use.
Exactly, we can go right in. We are using NCA here. They provide the highest energy density compared to all other battery technologies available. In commercial vehicles, that's why they're called that. We require high payload capacity. And that's why we need a battery with maximum energy density.
They're probably located here in the side panels where the fuel tank would normally be.
Exactly. The drive fluctuation is quite like diesel engines. Central drive with a drive shaft, and on the left and right side of the chassis, where the diesel tank would normally sit, the batteries are now located. We've got 4 units here. In total, they add up to 375 kilowatt hours, with roughly 300 kilowatt hours usable.
Our viewers always prefer having a range of 1,000 kilometers and a 5-minute charging time. What about with such a large, heavy utility vehicle?
Exactly, the situation is a bit different here because we have legally mandated driving and rest periods. I have to comply with those as a business owner, whether it's a garbage truck or a regular logistics vehicle. And the question is always, how do I balance the payload with the range? And align the transportation task in such a way that the range and charging times, that everything somehow harmonizes together. And the vehicles are specifically designed so that I can effortlessly handle the entire workday with them. The transport task has about the same volume as a diesel vehicle, can drive around all day, collect the trash, and gets recharged overnight.
If I picture it, I always have sufficient energy stored to last a full day. About how many kilowatt hours would that be? It's approximately around 300 or so. And the charging speed, I believe, can reach up to 250 kilowatts at its peak.
It varies depending on the vehicle type. Here we're dealing with an FE medium duty, which offers 150 kilowatts. DC, the larger ones, are located over here on the other side. Heavy duty, where we're operating at 250 kilowatts.
So how long does it approximately take from completely empty when it arrives naturally to fully charged for the next day?
An hour and a half, 2 hours. But it's often not utilized at all. A fast charge becomes interesting when I want to quickly recharge during lunch for 20 minutes, 10 minutes. Doesn't need to be fully charged, the car, but it's enough for me to maybe gain 10, 20, 30 kilometers more range during lunch.
Normally, overnight, significantly less energy is required because, after all, I have plenty of time available to spare. Why not use that time?
So, at Volvo Trucks, we can confidently place a check mark next to range anxiety for good. Because you essentially always have the right truck with the perfectly matched energy supply tailored to the specific usage behavior. Exactly.
Correct.
That means, let's quickly revisit. We've weighed him empty with me sitting inside the cabin and measured it at 17.25 tons. What's the power like in this case? Does it have 1,000 horsepower or is 100 enough? What type of electric motor is here, or how many electric motors are actually installed?
Yes. We're not looking to win drag races with this vehicle. It's meant to do the job it's designed for, which is collecting the trash efficiently. For that, we have enough energy. The vehicles here are powered by 225 kilowatts of drive power. It's completely sufficient for the area. It would be relatively easy to increase the energy via software. But it's no help, as it'll just be used accelerating too much and wasting energy unnecessarily. We don't need any of that. That's why our primary focus must always remain on safety, stability, and maintaining a practical, reasonable range. That's why we intentionally engineered the performance to match the range you'd usually anticipate from a comparable diesel vehicle in everyday driving conditions.
What we noticed on the tour is that with an electric truck like this, you can really keep up smoothly and effortlessly with car traffic. As a car driver, you'd think, now he's got to get rolling with that weight, but that's entirely out of the question here. Torque, endless power, no gear shifting like you typically have with a 12-speed manual transmission. I've heard there's also a gearbox installed. That means depending on load, drive type, and usage behavior, you shift gears in the commercial vehicle segment.
Exactly, because the basic principle remains the same, period. That I want to design a drive motor, whether it's combustion or electric, to be as efficient as possible, as it's all about how it works for you. And I only really need that high torque when getting the vehicle moving. Once it's in motion, I need less power, less torque. At that point, the engine can be a bit smaller, and I just get the torque through the gear ratio of the transmission. That's precisely why it makes perfect sense to install a transmission in such a utility vehicle. It doesn't require as many gears as a diesel vehicle. In this instance, we've equipped it with 2 gears. For the heavy duties, it's still the regular ICE gearbox at the moment. However, we actually only use 4 gears for that.
Then let's head over and take a closer look now. We actually have a heavy duty from you here at Alba in Berlin on Marzahner Straße. That means you're capable of moving massive containers, correct? So what's the actual load capacity we're dealing with here?
The vehicle is approved for up to 28 tons as a solo, whereas a comparable diesel vehicle would weigh approximately 26 tons. That means the additional weight of the battery is somewhat compensated for, as the legislation allows or even permits us to go up to that much more, you could say, in a certain way. And in the train combination, I could then drive up to 42 tons total.
I trained at Volvo. There's practically no area you guys can't handle or master. So there's a suitable Volvo product for every application. How should I imagine that? So, I'm an entrepreneur managing a transport business, whether it's short, medium, or long distance, and then I call you up and say, I need this exact truck fully electric and it's immediately available for me. Or are there still certain areas where you feel like we might actually need a bit more time for development that... There are certainly areas where going electric doesn't make sense just yet.
Nor is it our approach to suggest we intend to electrify everything overnight. But I would say 80 to 90% of applications can be electrified. In Germany, we already have the first customers who have clocked 300,000 kilometers with a vehicle. So it's proven the vehicles work. There are, let's say, heavy-duty sectors where it's more challenging. In those particular areas, a combustion engine is still far better suited than an electric motor in today's context. That's absolutely correct. But when it comes to regular vehicles, local operations, and standard freight transport, we can manage that exceptionally well without any issues.
250 to 300 kilometers, that's no issue. Because we were at the IAA, and at the IAA, we saw everything. We saw the classic combustion engine, we saw the fully electric car. Then we also occasionally heard from viewers, or rather your customers, who were always pondering like, if I get myself an electric one, I'll generalize it a bit. I know it might not be entirely accurate, but the thing costs double. Why should I pay double the amount for the same effort? So where's the actual advantage for me, as if I were an entrepreneur now, beyond just noise and emissions, with purely electric powered technology?
We accompany entrepreneurs throughout their entire journey. We don't just sell them the vehicle, we also carefully calculate all the associated costs well in advance.
That means the Volvo buyer essentially receives a complete cost calculation determining when the tipping point for their...
Exactly. The total cost isn't just about the purchase price, but also includes the operating expenses. What do I pay for the electricity? How much diesel would I need for that? Take a garbage truck as a diesel vehicle, it would need on average around 60 liters of diesel. When compared to the electricity costs I'd incur instead, could still make sense even if the vehicle itself costs 2 or 3 times as much. A situation where you might think yes, but after 3, 4, 5 years, depending on the case, the total costs are significantly lower than with these vehicles. Okay?
Christoph, then I'd say last but not least, let's take another look at the box. Another exciting model that you can take on the go. And I've really learned that sometimes you just have to make the switch from combustion to electric, right? If you have roof surfaces here, add photovoltaics, maybe storage, and charge directly. Driving a truck like this isn't for nothing, especially when you compare it to the current diesel prices. Maybe one last thing, a machine like the garbage truck, as you mentioned, it's roughly around 150 to 200 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers driven, just to give you a comparison, compared to a 60-liter consumption of a diesel-powered vehicle, right?
Yes.
So you can convert that. I need 60 liters of diesel for 100 kilometers. I don't know the price. I don't drive diesel. 1.70 compared to maybe industrial electricity price. 18 cents, then 150 to 200 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers driven. And then, as I've learned, we'll come back to that later with Mr. Fransky from Alba, Berlin. Already within 3.5 to 4 years, reach an absolute tipping point.
Exactly, it varies quite a bit. You can't really generalize it, but we're roughly in that range. And the difference in this case is, well, I'm not aware of any entrepreneur in Germany, at least no logistics company, that produces its own diesel fuel independently. However, we have quite a number of entrepreneurs who, for example, use rooftop PV systems to generate their own electricity.
I'll ask Mr. Franz about that in detail. That's just a big difference here. Yeah, cool. Let's take a quick look at the box. So with the box, we'll check it out once more and take another careful glance over in that direction. No problem. We took way too long. The box had to be put back into action once more. No other choice.
That is, of course, sad.
But Christoph has opened up the heavy duty for us here, and we now have the unique opportunity to take a detailed and close-up look at the driver's seat of such a massive truck. It has now transformed, much like with cars, into a fully equipped high-tech hub. So everything is fully digital, everything modern. We probably have all the assistance systems here, at least safety-relevant ones on board, such as a distance control, cruise control, most likely. Lane assist in the B system? Exactly.
We also offer active pilot assist DOT. Unlike cars, for example, we also have turn assist systems equipped with radar sensors on both sides. Even when the vehicle is parked and I'm just standing nearby, if I take a brake, I take the key out of the ignition and to some extent a safety system, the turn signal system stays active. And if I then open the door and step out and at that moment a cyclist were to approach, they would still warn me even with the vehicle turned off. Safety plays a big role for us and we have various measures implemented for that.
Systems. Previously, we always built the safest vehicles, passenger cars, and likely in commercial vehicles as well. Yeah, that's definitely a super exciting topic. We certainly hope to someday showcase such a heavy-duty vehicle with you in motion, perhaps in the not-too-distant future. We also have a significant advantage over combustion engines, since we can likely handle stationary climate control and heating with a heat pump, all without generating any noise or harmful emissions.
Exactly. With a normal diesel vehicle, if I take a break in winter, I usually have an external auxiliary heater attached to avoid freezing, so I don't have to keep the loud diesel engine running. I don't need it with an electric vehicle because on one hand it naturally comes equipped with an electric heater for winter, and in summer it features an electric air conditioning system. I can activate it completely silently whether I'm stationary or driving along.
Yes, Christopher, I'll say a big thank you for the insights here into the technical aspects of your electric utility vehicles. I think we'll hopefully intensify that in the future, and now we'll move on to locate Mr. Franske from Alba so he can show us the other side of entrepreneurship, which is equally important and insightful, you know? Why he decided to go with Volvo Trucks and where the unique selling points are specifically positioned. We managed to catch the dear Robert for a moment. Robert is the driver here of the fully electric panel van Christoph, which we definitely aren't going to overlook today. Go ahead and share a few more specifications. What are the details we have here? What kind of options are available here for going fully electric with such a Volvo box truck? Let's maybe take a quick little stroll around the van here to get a better look. What kind of options are available to manage things electrically inside the van area?
Exactly, so the van itself, I can relatively easily bolt it onto any vehicle. That's truly the most straightforward setup you could think of. It doesn't include much technology other than a rear lift gate at the back. By the way, I once calculated how many times you'd have to raise and lower the lift gate until the battery runs out. That's roughly 70,000 times. You'd never manage that, the day isn't long enough. But the powertrain is exactly the same as in the FE model. The same batteries, still NCA, and it also includes 375 kilowatt hours. Since the structure requires less energy, the range here is considerably higher. How far can it go? 300 kilometers or what?
400 kilometers in total, and in winter around 200. Yeah, that's about it. Great, right? So that means your usual route you can actually manage to complete just fine.
A bit in between. So 2 routes. And then we still have to add an hour to it.
Between routes, an hour of charging.
During winter, half-time lasts 2 hours, while in summer, it's just 1.
Okay, yes, perfect. And then I noticed there's this really big, massive wheel loader here. Volvo probably has an electric version too, right? Yeah, for all the polished excavator fans. Exactly. Anyone who visited us at the construction site could see it as well.
We had an all-electric stand there with the construction machinery as well. And I'm not an expert on construction machinery, I'm more of a car guy.
Not tall either.
There's also an electric version available now from our series.
Yes, then thank you very much, Christoph and Robert, for letting us briefly include the box here as well. Now the managing director is here, Christoph Franzke. A warm welcome and heartfelt thanks for letting us join you at Alba, Berlin on Marzahner Straße to participate in the Waste Tour with you today, to show the Volvo trucks of yours, and maybe you could briefly introduce yourself to our viewers, telling them about all the great things you do at Alba.
Sure, great to have you here. Thanks for the invite. I'm Christoph Franzke, Managing Director of Alba Berlin, and I'm responsible for logistics, facilities, all the blue trucks, the sorting plants, and several other companies located across the East region.
Yes, great, Christoph. When you think of a classic garbage truck, you immediately think of combustion engines, and that's generally the case across recycling and waste management. Now, you've clearly positioned yourselves towards electromobility. How did that shift come about for your company?
Yes, as a recycling and environmental service provider, we're keen to ensure that when we think about the environment, our goal is to reduce emissions. With multiple trucks on the road and sorting facilities consuming energy, we've developed a clear strategy to tackle this. To reduce emissions, alongside alternative fuels, alternative drive systems are a vital component. And that's why the decision was made in favor of electric mobility, especially because funding opportunities were available, which is why we chose this path and are now rigorously pursuing it.
How does the electricity get into the truck? Do you have a clear concept for that? Okay, you have Alpitronic charging stations to recharge the vehicles, but where does the electricity come from?
The fundamental strategy, of course, is that we have the charging infrastructure at the locations to ensure we always have sufficient charge to guarantee the disposal process. The electricity still comes from the outlet here. However, we're also working on exploring how we can further develop other sources like photovoltaics to supply us. But things are never quite straightforward because significant investments are required and the right conditions have to be in place.
When you think about electromobility, you always have the advantage of low maintenance costs, low servicing costs, and high efficiency. Perhaps then also from the use of electricity to the range and its practical benefits overall. What are your experiences there? Does electromobility make sense in your specific business sector? Are you still fully committed to this path? Do you continue investing in electric utility vehicles? Or how is the situation shaping up right now?
Well, according to the manufacturers, we are relatively far along as Alba, and also here in the company and in the Eastern region, we're quite advanced. We'll keep moving forward on this path if the conditions align, as we've already received trucks in 2 funding rounds and we'll get even more. We will have 12 vehicles in Berlin alone. That's why the answer is essentially that it depends on the specific conditions and overall circumstances. How are the manufacturers' prices? How are the funding developments? Many other parameters are evolving because factors like tolls also have an impact. Because it's not just about the truck, you also need to secure the pillar. Back here, there's a transformer. The transformer becomes part of it when charging 4 trucks, and costs add up significantly. And of course, the availability of the networks is also crucial, so we're happy to continue down this path if the framework conditions are feasible for us.
You've clearly positioned yourselves with and for Volvo. What were the key factors that led you to choose the Volvo brand? Because there's probably a wide range of manufacturers that might offer similar commercial vehicles.
Absolutely. For us, the priority wasn't necessarily Volvo, but rather who could meet our requirements in terms of vehicle configuration, driving range, delivery timelines, and comprehensive service agreements provided. And then we tested multiple vehicles and ultimately found the best product at Volvo. And so far, we haven't been disappointed because we see that the vehicles are fully functional. They have no redundancy, and we have to say we actually have 2 generations as well, which by now have much more mileage than we actually require in the end, because as waste disposal vehicles in a city like Berlin, we obviously don't cover the same distances as in other areas or vehicles that travel long distances across Germany.
We noticed during the trash round with our dear Frank that it's just absolutely brilliant in an electric car because it's got the power, it's packed with energy, and it hardly makes any noise. So it's also a great thing for the residents of Berlin, I think, when you arrive in electric vehicles, because the noise emissions probably drop significantly. And Frank also reflected again that he really enjoys driving electric. So it's fair to say that if the policy framework were properly established, you would continue steadily progressing towards entirely electric waste management solutions, particularly in the context of utility vehicles.
That's exactly right. Especially for Berlin, we have a climate agreement. At Alba, we've firmly committed to taking action. Beyond just trucks, we'll also be testing electric machinery, including wheel loaders and excavators this year. The market isn't as developed in that sector just yet. However, we aim to begin testing early and steadily move forward along this path. It's crucial that the vehicles are highly emission efficient, especially in urban areas. We'll never achieve complete silence because a ton still must be tipped during the dumping process. However, as you just mentioned, driving behavior is also an important topic where drivers often reflect that the noise level related to driving behavior is positive. Positive feedback is common.
Yes, Christoph, then we'd like to say a heartfelt thank you for allowing us to be here. It was an eventful day, and I hope that perhaps in a different way, if you're also interested, feel free to share your thoughts and drop your comments under the video for us to see and engage with. Feel free to give us a like for Alba, making this possible and enabling us to perhaps connect electromobility with waste management more frequently in the future across different areas as well. Thanks, Christoph, and we're excited to see where this takes us next.
Thank you.
And with that, we've reached the conclusion of today's video, featuring the garbage truck from Alba, Berlin, right here on Marzahner Straße, proudly brought to you by Volvo. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and take a moment to check if you're part of the Einfacher Elektrisch community so you don't miss out on future utility vehicle videos like this one in the coming weeks. We'd be thrilled. The subscription is free for you, but helps us a lot with the channel keep growing, a topic we haven't even touched on yet before we wrap things up completely here. He doesn't have a dorsal fin. No.
But he has a camera system back here. You can see it, and it's lit up so the guys can see something even in the dark mornings. It's really well thought out, everything here, that's absolutely certain.
But it's pretty wild what's achievable these days with full electric, right? Don't hesitate to drop your thoughts in the comments.